On the last day of CSS Beginners to Advanced Stage, where we will be completing the CSS Grid part. So today we will be completing a CSS Grid, and if possible, I have a small project also for you people to share that how to use Grid. So that will be again a very beneficial thing for all of you. So let us wait for another 1 to 2 minutes. By the meantime, let me have my setup. So today we will be completing the entire grid part, and so the setup will be like that. Grid grid, and simply drag and drop. You'll have index.html. One second. And our style.css. Style.css. No. Let me have the basic structure. Oh, sorry. We have grid, and we'll use the length tag. Let me go live also. And now what we will be doing here, we will be viewing the output on the Firefox Developer Edition. Due to some specific reason, I am choosing this particular type of browser to show you the grid lines. And this particular feature is only available in Firefox Developer Edition. So I hope my voice is audible to all of you, is clearly audible to all of you, and my screen is also visible. So can someone please confirm me so that I'm also rest assured that everything is going fine. Okay. Okay, fine. So let us start now with the CSS grid. Now, what is CSS grid? Yeah, thanks, Vikas. Thanks for your reply. Now, what is CSS grid? So earlier, what we have seen display block, display float, display flex. So all these things are again a display property, and grid is also a part of that. Fine. Now, one more thing which is very important, that grid divides whole of the page into rows and columns. This is a very important thing. And grid works in, okay, fine. And grid works in both the directions. How it works in both the directions. So it divides whole of the page into rows and columns, and with this feature, it works in both the directions. So let us see how grid will work. And the main basic purpose of grid is to make the web page responsive. So let us see the responsive. We will see the responsiveness also. So let me have the structure ready. So here we have a parent div with the class container, and a common class which applies to all. So let me have the style class CSS so that it looks like. Now let me do the selection and formatting the page so that it will look nice. Now after this thing, let us apply the grid part. So it will always be applied on the parent class. So what we do, we have a dot container the display of grid. Now as I told you, grid is again display property, so we will be applying it in front of grid display. Now, as I've told you, grid divides all of the page into rows and columns. So we need to declare rows and columns also, because then only grid will himself decide that where to use what. Now what we are doing, we will be applying GTC grid template column. So let us have a 200px column and 500px column. So we have declared two columns here. And let me have a row also. So what we will do in GTR grid template rows, we have 200 px, 100 px, and 300 px. So we have created 3 rows. Now see, there are 2 rows and 3 columns. But how many items we have? We have actually 10 items. So let me have another picture of GT grid cap of, let's say, 5p. What this 5px will do? So this 5px, this grid cap of 5px have created gaps, or I can say borders, or I can say margins between the lines between the items. Now, if you see here, there are total 10 items, but what we have did here, we have declared the grid template rows and grid template columns for only 6 items, 3 to the 6. Now, what about 7, 8, and 9 and 10? So, based on the size of the items inside the grid, the space has been allotted to 7, 8, 9, and 10. Now, in this thing, if you have noticed here, so let me go through the inspect part. So here, if you see this thing, see, now try to focus on this thing. So there are two type of tracks you can see here. There are two type of tracks you can focus on. Focus area high loop. So there are two type of tracks which you can focus. So one kind of a track you can see here, which is a dash type of a track, and out of one you can see here, which is a dot type of a track. So what are these dash tracks and dot tracks? So these are called as explicit and implicit. Now, explicit tracks are marked as dashed lines, and implicit are marked as dotted lines. Okay, so that is how it works like that. Now, after this thing, these explicit means the dash tracks are created because we have declared grid template rows and grid template columns. And these implicit tracks are the dot tracks, are created because it has been created by the grid system internally. Now, what about for the 7, 8, 9, and 10? So, in case if we come in a scenario where we have to declare the spaces of these items. So we use a code which is called as a grid auto flow, and let's say 150p grid auto flow 150p. Now, 1 second, something is wrong here. Grid auto row. So we have grid auto rows of 150p. Now see. So let me minimize it also. Now, for the 7, 8, 9, and 10, the space of 150px. So here you can have a space of 150px to which has been allotted to the item 7, 8, 9, and 10. So that is how this thing will work like that. Now after this thing, we have a property which is called as a auto flow. Now what is this auto flow? So here in this auto flow, currently what is happening there? If we create any track, okay, it will get created in the next row. But how? With the help of grid auto flow property, we can change it. So what I will do here, let me make it now. Let us have a grid. Okay, so let me, what I will do here, we'll have only, we have only, we have only 2 items here. Now, what is happening here? If I introduce a new item, okay, if I introduce a new item, where it will go? So by default, it will go below item number 1. But if I want to change, the position, so what I will do, I have a property which is called as the grid auto flow, and with the help of that thing we can change. So let me apply this thing. So here by default GAF grid auto flow. So by default it is row only. So let me change it to column. Now see, the next item will gets created by the side of item number 2. So with the help of grid auto flow property, you can change this thing also. So that is how it works like that. Now after this thing, let me have but another property in CSS Grid which is called as the sizing of tracks. Now how this sizing of tracks will work, and for this thing to happen, I need a little bit change in the code. So what I will do, I will add some more items here. Items will be like from 10 to 15. Now, if you have noticed here, by default, I have given grid auto flow column. And what happened here, the items will get created by the side of two. That means it is creating columns, not rows. In the single row, it is creating columns. Now, after this thing, let me size the grids in a different pattern also. So let me show you how this thing will work. So we have, so what we will do here, we declare GTC grid template column, and in the pattern of 25 percentage, we will be declaring. Okay, now let me change this grid cap to 20 px. Now, now see what is happening here. Now see what is happening. What is happening here? See what is happening here when we have declared this thing. What is happened? 25% into 4 is 100% plus 20 px. So that is 120 px. But the screen size, but the available screen size is of 100 px. So that why this what is happening here? What is happening here? The notes available. My dear friends, you need to prepare notes which you can read and understand. My notes you cannot read, you cannot understand. So you need to prepare your notes which you can read, which you can refer, which you can understand. You cannot read my notes because it is totally in a different language. So coming back to the topic. Now here, if you have seen here, the last row, the last column sticks to the horizontal bar. So why it is happening? Because 100 into 100 plus 20 is 120 page. That is why it is happening here. Now there is a unit. Now CSS Grid have introduced a unit which helps to get rid out from this kind of problem. So let me design once again. We have 200 px and 150 px. Now see what is happening here. Also let me have a border also. Border of let's say 5p, like solid with. Now let me introduce this unit which is called as a FR. So we have one FR. So how now see what is happening here. So the free space left after the second column will be allotted to this particular column. Now we have similarly we can have that 2FR also. So 2FR. So what is happening here? Twice of the free space has been given to the last column, and one part of the free space has been given to the second last column. So that is how the division will be like that. Now there is a property which is called as the auto. So how the auto will work? Now, for this auto property, depending upon the size of the content inside the cell, this is the cell, the space has been allotted. So this is basically called as the auto property. Now let me add some more here. See how what is happening. See, so that is how this auto property will work. So it actually reacts when the content is more or less. Now, after this thing, let us introduce a new feature which is called as a repeat function. So we have a repeat feature, and I want two times of one FR. Now see how this thing will work. So first column is of auto, second of 150 BX, third we have two times of 1 FR. So 1 FR, 1 FR. Then again we have 1 FR, then we have 2 FR. So this thing will work like that. Yeah, hi RK analysis. Good evening. Yeah. Now after this thing, okay. Now after this thing, what we do, we have a new feature which we will be seeing here. One second. Which is called as the sizing of grid. Now, how this sizing of grid will work? So, for this to happen, let me have a structural change here. So, this is the structure, and here we have 30 items. 30 items by default. See, in the same pattern what we have given, it have adjusted themselves. Now, after this thing, what we do, we have some okay, so what we do here, all these things are not required now. What we will simply using the repeat functionality and adjusting the items. So here, repeat 5 times of one FR. So here, simply very easily, we have created 5 columns of one FR. Now, what is happening here? What we are doing here? So for this particular item, let's say item number 9. So we have a separate class for item number 9. So what we do, we will identify this item 9 dot with a change in the background with let's say white. So it is easily identified. Now let me change the width to 500 px. Now what is happening here? This particular item 9 has a width of 500 px, but what is happening here? It is actually disturbing. It is actually disturbing the whole of the column. Now, this is actually not looking good. So we have a functionality which is called as GC, and with a span of 2. See, second, with a span of 2 means twice of the space has been given to item number 9. Twice of the space has been given to item number 9. Twice of the space has been given to item number 9. And if you have seen here, the pattern of the column has not been disturbed. So if you want some additional space, if you want some more space, you can get it with the help of span functionality, but you will not disturb the rest of the structure. So that is how this thing will work like that. Now, similarly, we can have this span functionality for row also. So let me add this for row. We have GR grid row and a span of let's say 4. So you can see 4 columns, sorry, 4 rows have merged. Now, if now there are some shortcuts also. So if I want this particular thing to start from somewhere and to end at somewhere, so what I will do here. So I want this to start. So GCS, oh sorry, grid column start. I want this to start from 101 and grid column, and I want this to start till 5. So it starts at 1 and at 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Before 5, it ended. Similarly, we can have a row. The grid row start. Grid row start. I want this to start from row number 1. And again, let us use the same structure. grid row and will end at 5. So 1 5 1 5 just pattern. Now see, it starts from row. So 1 2 3 4 and 5. So before 5 it ends. So that is how this thing works. Now similarly we have another shortcut also. So let's see how this thing will work. So if I write grid column, I want this to start from 1 and get 5. See, here we have the grid row 1 and 5. See the same structure, but only a single line of code. So that is how it works like that. Now after this thing, okay, so if I write here minus of 1 and minus of 1. Now see minus 1. So here if this is 1 2 3 4 5, so this is minus 1 minus 2 minus 3 minus 4 minus 1. So minus 1 and 5, so it will use that this particular area only irrespective of going from here to here. So that is how it works like that. Now after this thing, let us have the next thing here. What we will be seeing here is basically the autofill and auto fit property. So how autofill and auto fit property will work here? So for this autofill and auto fit property, let me have the structure. Let me have some structural changes. So for this thing, 1 second. In this autofill and auto fit property, what we will be doing, we will be having a totally different structure. So here, this is a div. Mm, okay, but let me comment out this thing also. Now it is perfect. So here, what we are doing here, we have a parent class container and we will be checking the autofit and autofill properties. Now, what is autofill? So autofill, as the name says, autofill. So it tries to fit as many as possible items in the same row without moving on to the next row. So that is how this thing will work. So how to write it? So what we will doing here, we will be using auto autofill, and in this autofill we will be using 150px. Yes. Now see. Now see the responsiveness also. So see. So it says it tries to fit as many as possible items in the same row. So that is how it is reacting. So autofill autofill tries to fit as many as possible items in the same row. Now 1 second. Let me remove it. Now after this thing, what I do here, let us see the autofit. Now what is autofit? Autofit is almost very similar to autofill, but for the but in order to understand the difference, let me do one thing. Uh, Let me make some changes here. So here we have what I do here. Let me change this to auto fit, and here what I do here for this particular thing, for this particular item 4, I have a class here item 4. I have a class item grid column, and I want this to move to -1. Now, here if you see here, grid column and -1. Now what is happening here? If I change this again to auto fill, so it have moved to the end of the grids. So that is how, that is very important, because with the help of this thing you will be able to create the menu items, and this thing is very helpful to create the menu items. Now let me do one thing. Now I will be commenting out, uncommenting this thing, and have the structure here. Now dot min max. Now what is this min max? Min max is again a very important property, and for you to understand, we have the structure like that. And in this min max structure, what we will be doing here, we will be in this structure, we will be applying the min max property here. So let us see how this thing we will be applying. So one second. So we have a display of grids. Now we will be applying the min max structure. How this min max structure will be applied here. So for this thing, what I do here, I need in this autofill, I apply here min max of 150p x, 1 fr. Okay, now this 100px is not required. Now see what we did here. So we have given two space properties. So either you can have 150px or either you can have 1fr. So depending upon the size of the content inside the container, you can have the space allocation. So that is how you can work like that. Now that is why min-max is min-max, along with the repeat functionality and along with the autofill, will become a very important. Okay, so here let me have the one second. So the last day attendance, is here for the reference, which is being shown in front of the your screen also. So I request you all to please fill the last day attendance. Today is the last day attendance, because then only you will get the participation certificate. And this attendance is very important because this is the last day attendance. So let me wait for a minute for you all to fill the attendance. So I will be waiting for a minute. So I request you all to please fill attendance. So once you have filled it, please reply with comment. Please reply in the comment box that filled, so that I will be able to move further. अरे लिंक है भाई, देखो ये देखो YouTube के लाइव चैट में देखिए लिंक है. Please check the attendance link in the live YouTube chat. Once, if anyone have filled it, please reply with yes so that I can go ahead. If anyone have filled it, Please reply with yes so that I can go ahead. Now, let us see the next thing here, which is called as the concept to place items in, which is called as a grid template areas to place the item. So how we will be placed, how we will be using the grid template areas to place the items. So let us see. Let us see for this thing. Let me have the structure. This is the structure. So the structure clearly says that where what needs to be placed. So for this thing, see. So the structure says that I am the sidebar one, I am the sidebar two, I will be the center content, and I am the footer. So with the help of this thing, we will be placing our item. So what I do here, let me restructure this thing. So I have a display of a grid. Okay, a display of a grid, and one second. Okay, so I have a display of grid and grid gap of 20 px. Border property I have used, and let me have GTC grid template column of 1 FR, 10 FR, and 1 FR. Okay. Now I write GTR grid template rows. In this grid template row we have for 150 px, 150 px, and 100 p. So what we did, we have declared 3 columns and 3 rows. Now what we will be doing here, we will be assigning the grid template area. So we have GTR, oh, grid template area, so GTA, and this grid template area, what we will doing, we will be placing. So we have sidebar 1, and after that we have content, and we have sidebar 2, sidebar 2. So similarly, what we did, we have the next content, which is called as the sidebar 1 content or 2, and also we have footer, footer. So that is how this thing will work. Now let me show you the inspect option, and then you will be clear, you have a clear idea that how this thing will work. See, so here it works like that. So we have grid template areas. So where it is be working like that. So I have here the sidebar 1 content sidebar 2, sidebar 1 content sidebar 2, and footer and footer. So this has to be in inverted commas. Now, now what I will be doing, using the grid areas pattern, I will be assigning this. So we have dot footer, and in this dot footer, what will we use GA grid area footer. Footer will be like footer will come here, and similarly we have for item 1, for I item 1 I use grid area for sidebar 1. So we will be using this thing here. So let me do first. So that is how it works here. So that is how you can see with the help of grid template areas. I am unable to get the link page. अरे भाई डे फॉर अटेंडेंस ये है तो सही है. Mahesh, you please open the live YouTube chat. I guess you are in the top chat. Please go to the live YouTube chat and there you will find the day for attendance. Okay. So here now after this thing, let me take you uh to the very important and interesting concept which is called as the legendary masonry layout. So for this legendary masonry layout, let me have a revised structure. And in this revised structure, what ah and in this revised structure, what I will be doing here, no, so I will be increasing the items to 70. And in this 70 items, see how it will be working. So here we have 70 items here, and in this 70 items, the parent class is container only. So now, okay, simple. Now, simply we will be giving the grid template column and a grid gap. So what we do here, GTC grid template column, and using the repeat function, uh, I want 10 columns of one FR. So very easy, 10 columns of one FR have created. Now, let me add some irregularities here. So using the span functionality, I will be adding the irregularities. So here, the items will be of different shapes and size. Now, using a single line of code, grid auto flow 10, so you can see all of the all of the items will get placed properly in the current page. Now, why it is how this thing will be happening? So here, how this thing will happen here, because with the help of grid autoflow test, it 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 plays it uses the available space of the current page and tries to fit as many as possible items. But here, the main problem with this functionality is that the sequence is not guaranteed. So if you read the sequence from 1 to 70, you found you will find that if you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is below 1 to 5 and 7, 8. So here, if you want to place items, you can place items, but where you do not need to maintain the sequence, so you can have this functionality here. So in this legendary masonry layout, so you can have this thing here. Now, after this legendary masonry layout, let us see the next thing, which is called and which is which is very important thing. And here we will be learning how to place items. So we have something which is called as the justify and align properties. So let me write here only. So we have justify and align. If you see the common things here, which is justify and so justify works on row axis and align works on column axis. So that is the thing where it works. So justify row axis, align column axis. So this is the major where it works. So what I will do here, let me have some let me have some 40 items only. One second. Let me have some only 40 items. So what I will be doing here in this 40 items, I will be applying the GTR. So how this thing will work here? So let me have now what we will be doing here. We have already declared the grid template column where we want only 10 columns. So one second. So here we will be using the justify item first. So justify as the name says, justify means on row axis. So how it will be using applying on row axis. So let us see. So justify have four values: start, end, center, and start. So let us see one by one. So what I will do here, we have I justify items and start is the first value. Now let me open the inspect part also for you to easily focus the movement. Okay. So let me have a background to white. Background to white. Oh, so one second. Okay, so it will not work here. I item will have a background to white. Fine. Now we have justify item start. Next property is next value is a justify item, and after and we have center. After center we have stretch. Okay. Now after this thing, let us apply the next property which is called as a align item. Now align item, it aligns the item along the column axis. Okay, it aligns the item along the column axis. Now, and also the aligned item have the same set of values. Okay, so how this values will work? So let us check out that also. So the set of values are similar to justify item. So let us apply. But before applying this, let me have a change. So we have a GTR get template rows with a repeat of 5 times 100 px. Now let me reduce this to uh, 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 20. Here we have 10 times of 1FR and 5 times of 100 px. Now what we will be doing here, we will be applying the align item property. So we have AI align item to start. Now see the movement. Movement will be in a different axis and start and center stretch. Now for you start and center and stretch. Now after this thing, what will you do in here? We will see the next important property after justify will be the after align item, which is the justify content. Now justify content have the 7 values. So start and center stretch, space around, space between, and space even. Now let us see one by one. But before this, let me have a proper structure. So we'll have a display of grid, a grid cap of 20 px, grid template column with repeat 5 of 100 px needs to be used here. And we have grid template rows with 5 types of 100 px. So it's the same structure we are following. Now we have justify item, we have align items. Now we will see the justify content. So we have JC justify content start and start and After end, we will see the center part. Okay, start and center. After center, we have stretch. After stretch, we will be using space around. We have space between. We have space evenly. So these are the 7 set of values which we have seen just now for the justify content property. Now after justify content, we have align content, and it is actually the opposite of justify content. Now the align content will again have the same set of values. Now in this align content, let me have only the display of grid about 20 px, and let me introduce a height also of 500 px, grid template column with repeat 5 times of 100 px, align item justify to justify. So let us apply the align content property. So we have a align content of start, align content of end. After align content of end, we have the next value which is called as the center. After center, we have the next value which is the stretch. After stretch, we have space around. Space between, and space evenly. So same set of values, start and center stretch, space around, space between, and space evenly. Now after this thing, we have the next last thing left, which is called as the justify self. Now how this justify self will work? So here in this justify self, now remember one thing, justify self property will always apply on the items. So we will change this to, so let me reduce the items there. And this much items, and we have the for item 9. For item 9, let me change the background to yellow, and we'll apply the justify self property to end. See, now see this particular thing. End, center, start. So these are the values and how this thing will work. So it is like that only. Now after this thing, let us seek the align property. Now align is again the property. Align is again the opposite of justify. So we will see the align self, but here I need to use align I. Okay. Now we have the align self to start and enter is stretch. So these are the 4 set of values for align. Now after this thing, let us have a view on a very small project which uses the properties of CSS Grid. So for this thing, let me have a So this is a structure, and in this structure, you can have the set of type for the albums. And after this thing, we have a album property also. We have a album property also. So we will apply some design specifically. And after this thing, let me add some more thing after padding. So we again apply a display of grid with grid template column. Now after this thing, we'll again use album network structure, but here something is to be corrected. We'll use, so that is how you can have a structure like this. So with the help of simple grid property, you can align very easily. So that is how that is what the end of today's session. So see you all